The deafening silence, the call for accountability in Washington's workers' rights crisis in the span of the last 8 years, a troubling silence has ensconced the plight of injured workers in Washington state, a silence marked not by peace, but by a stark and systemic neglect. This isn't merely about numbers, though the figures are indeed staggering, with nearly 3 million non-fatal workplace injuries and illnesses reported nationwide in just 1 year. This is about a systemic failure, a breakdown in the social contract supposed to protect workers, underscored by a glaring lack of federal protections. Amidst this crisis, notable figures and institutions that should champion the rights and welfare of these workers have instead chosen silence or ineffective solutions. Representatives such as Pramila Jayapal, Larsen, and U.S. Senator Patty Murray have not taken the strong stance needed to address this urgent issue. Their silence, intentional or not, contributes to the ongoing neglect and suffering of injured workers. Mary Fosse, despite representing a constituency deeply affected by these issues, has not been the advocate that Washington's injured workers desperately need. The expectation was for Fosse and her peers to lead the charge, to give voice to the voiceless, and yet, the silence persists. Moreover, the proposed solutions, such as increased OSHA inspectors and funding, fall drastically short of addressing the root problems. These measures, while important, do not tackle the fundamental injustices and inadequacies within our current workers' compensation system. The unions, traditionally bastions of worker rights, have also been caught in this wave of complacency, offering band-aid solutions to a hemorrhaging wound. The narrative pushed by some Washington Republicans, like Scott Staff and Tamborine Borelli, promoting whole WA and other incrementalist policies, provides a glaring example of the misdirection from the real issue at hand. These policies do not address the core needs of injured workers, instead offering a smokescreen that detracts from the pressing need for comprehensive federal reform. Jason Call's assertion that workers' compensation issues cannot find a place at the liberal table alongside M4A and whole WA single-payer discussions is a testament to the significant roadblocks within our own ranks. This is not just disappointing, it's a betrayal of core liberal and humanitarian values. The business blocks within our liberal factions are obstructing the very essence of what we purport to stand for. The stark truth is this: if our representatives, unions, and political factions cannot stand up for the basic federal human rights of workers, then their legitimacy is fundamentally undermined. The silence, the excuses, and the incrementalism amount to a collective shrug to the workers' plight. This is not just a failure, it's a dereliction of duty. It's time to end this silence and demand action. We need to establish a National Workers' Comp Commission and enforce minimum federal standards to protect our workers, a need that has been glaring since 1972. The current state of affairs, where every faction seems to serve the chambers of commerce rather than the workers, is unacceptable. The call to action is clear: we need immediate, substantial reforms to address the injustices faced by injured workers. Representatives Fosse, Jayapal, Larsen, and Senator Murray must awaken from their complicit silence and advocate for these essential changes. The unions must recognize that while additional OSHA inspectors and funding are necessary, they are not the panacea for the systemic issues at hand. The time for silence is over. It's time for all involved, legislators, unions, and political parties, to stand up, speak out, and represent the interests of America's workers. Anything less is a betrayal of the values we claim to hold dear and a continued injustice to those who suffer in silence.